Nietzsche's first book, The Birth of Tragedy, was about him studying what the point of art was. Funny, when Nietzsche released this, he got scolded by everyone for not being academic and formal enough and instead being too speculative and philosophical. But it is one of these philosophical speculations that I would like you to focus on. And this is how Nietzsche began to judge art as needing to be affirming life. You see, life is a slog. You go through it having all these little aches and pains. You've got a sore pec, you've got sore little fingers, your tummy's hurting you a little bit, your boyfriend or your girlfriend is breaking up with you or annoying you, people betray you, you might even fail, horrible things might happen to you that are even worse, where you might have disasters or massive accidents or get abused by people or something like this. It's this constant slog of pain, suffering, betrayal and drama, and then at the end of it you die. And coming to consciousness of what this is like can be very depressing, very blackpilling, if I was to put it that way. Now, this depressing reality is directly tied to the most magical thing about life. You see, strength and vitality kills off pain. When your muscles are strong, your pain levels go down. Strength is the antagonist to pain. And so if you're resonating and full of vitality and full of life force, if you're full of energy, you don't feel as much pain. In fact, you feel jolly, happy, and healthy. And you're resilient against the suffering and struggles and pain of life. But this becomes one of our biggest problems. We are not Energizer bunnies. Our vitality, our zap, our life force drops all the time. Maybe bad things happen to us that weaken this. And the suffering overwhelms us. And we get filled with all this negativity and this jadedness, and we sort of give up on life. We don't have the strength to fight back. And at that point, terrible things can happen. We can begin to deny life, we can lose enchantment with life, we can sort of commit a spiritual suicide that leads to all sorts of terrible things, such as perhaps our own death, us giving up, or us becoming pessimistic and negative to the people around us and causing them to give up as well. And so Nietzsche saw all this and realized that the purpose of art was to stimulate that vitality and allow people to process those negative emotions and those jaded feelings. The purpose of art was to try to get people back into that healthy, strong, vital, spirited and moralized state. Now, an interesting angle to this was the stories that people tended to tell themselves in art were often sad stories. It was about a hero getting murdered and getting destroyed. It was tragic. But as Aristotle said, and as Nietzsche noticed, tragedy is actually really, really good. You know, when you have a good cry and then you feel better afterwards, you feel something's off your chest, you feel fresh and born again. Aristotle called this catharsis. Nietzsche was exploring this. Why did these ancient Greeks put these big theatrical tragedies on stage? And what type of service did that do for their people? How was that type of art helping them become successful? Yes, this is a profound part of human nature, but it's also got something in it that is very straightforward. When you watch a great hero like Achilles struggle like you do and end up dying in horrific circumstances like your worst fears, but still achieving something great and becoming immortal, you get invigorated, you get motivated. That's an incredible story to hear. Think about the movie 300, where Leonidas goes and dies in Thermopylae in twisted agony as all these arrows are sticking out of him. But he saves his people and his legacy lives on forever. How does that not get you hyped? Even though it's a tragedy, even though the hero dies, something happens to you. You end up inspired. And of course, this does explain something about art, which is quite weird when you think about it. Why do we watch the people we like die? Don't we want them to win? What the hell is going on? Why are we watching them lose? That's crazy. But of course, in experiencing their struggles and watching them die well, we get invigorated. We achieve this vital energy for this life. Also, even if it's just a made-up story, if it's just some random mythology or a story about a god, this is where it can make sense. And of course, as Nietzsche noticed, the character that the gods represented with this experience was Dionysus. Dionysus is the god of intoxication, frenzy, shamanic frenzy, theater, alcohol, these types of things. It's about getting into that emotional state where things can happen inside of you, where you can transform, where psychological processes can take place. And of course, it's no mistake that the god Dionysus was the god of death and rebirth. He was the force that could die like the hero and be born again, resurrected as something new, something that can conquer death. What out there is more inspiring than that you can resurrect after death, you are immortal. This is why Jesus Christ is such an inspiration to people all around the world. Now, when you come to understand what Nietzsche was trying to point out here, the need for art to stimulate life, you realize what a shambles of a culture we live in right now. Because Our culture is all about this narcissistic art for art's sake by postmodern artists. And you look at the art that they produce, you hear people complaining about this. The architecture is brutalist and ugly. The postmodern paintings that don't make any sense, they're just hanging up socks on a wall or something like this. Now think about what type of psychological reaction these things evoke inside of you. Think about what the artists say their goal is. They nail a toilet to the ceiling because they want to create irony inside of your mind. Confusion, shock. They want to make you think. They want to make you intellectualize. These are all very up in the head modern emotions that don't stimulate life. And this is why so many people lament the state of modern art. It is failing to do its job. It does not inspire. It is life-denying and irony-poisoned to its core. Nihilistic, as Nietzsche called it. And the most important thing is you do not let it infect you, because if you do, it will transform you into a dork.